words are cheap. The biggest thing you can say is elephant. Strange words, but considering they came from the mouth of Charlie Chaplin, I'd say they make enough sense. In the world of acting, the words Charlie Chaplin definitely trump elephant. I've always been a fan of Chaplin's, and I've researched his life so that I could teach you a little bit more about this groundbreaking actor. Charlie Chaplin was more than just the tramp. He was a man who made us smile when there was nothing to smile about, and he rebelled when nobody else would speak. Charlie Chaplin was a true visionary, and I would love to teach you all a little bit more about the world's most beloved tramp. On April 16, 1889, in London, England, Charles Spencer Chaplin was welcomed to the world by his parents, Charles and Hannah Chaplin. Many people aren't aware of the fact that both of his parents were actually performers who passed on their talents to both their children, Charles and Sidney. His father was an actor and an accomplished vocalist, while his mother was an actress as well as a woman who had made a reputation for herself in the world of light opera. And despite the fact that Charlie Chaplin was an astoundingly talented actor, he didn't actually go into the world of theater for the sheer love of acting. He and his brother were forced to make a living at a very young age because his father passed away when he was 10 and his mother soon began to suffer from mental illness. So he and his brother Sidney decided to turn to a skill set they felt the most comfortable with: acting. It wasn't long before Charlie Chaplin had made a good name for himself. He started out in a group that called themselves the 8 Lancashire Lads, and soon enjoyed a long stint as a page boy called Billy in Sherlock Holmes. It was after this that he decided to pursue a career as a comedian in vaudeville. This was a monumental movement that brought Charlie Chaplin to the Fred Carnot Repertoire Company, who brought him to the United States in 1910, where he was immediately popular. In fact, when the Fred Carnot Repertoire Company decided to return to the United States in 1912, they actually offered Charlie Chaplin a motion picture contract. In 1913, when he was finally through with his commitments in vaudeville, Charlie Chaplin decided to accept this offer, and he made his very first motion picture contract with Keystone Pictures. This was the beginning of a monumental career that is famous to this day. In fact, in his very first film, entitled Making a Living, which premiered in 1915, Charlie Chaplin introduced one of his most iconic characters of all time. In this film, he portrayed a downtrodden yet dreamy character called the Tramp. This is the image, as well as the name, that is synonymous with the very name Charlie Chaplin. However, most people aren't aware of the fact that Charlie Chaplin was not only an actor, he was also a producer. And in 1917, he launched his own film production company called the Charlie Chaplin Film Studio. And in 1918, he also helped to launch the United Actors Corporation. This was what gave Charlie Chaplin full freedom and complete control over the product he put out. From this experience, such greats such as The Kid, The Gold Rush, City Lights, Modern Times, and The Great Dictator were born. Many people think of Charlie Chaplin as a comedian, and that's it. However, Charlie Chaplin was also very involved with the issues of the world. His films, Modern Times and The Great Dictator, perfectly exemplify this notion. In Modern Times, he commented on the economic struggles that people were suffering during the Great Depression. And in one of his most controversial films, The Great Dictator, he poked a little fun at Hitler in his own unique way to bring to light the atrocities and horrors happening due to the nationalist movement in 1939 at the time he wrote the film. This film ends with a now famous humanitarian speech that is still referenced today. And though it was banned in Germany, Adolf Hitler himself was said to have viewed this film not once, but twice during his life, though his opinions were never actually documented. It was during the famous witch hunt for communists that Senator McCarthy decided to brand Charlie Chaplin as a communist. And in 1952, on his way home from a trip to Europe, Charlie Chaplin was denied re-entrance to the United States due to his lack of U.S. citizenship. So Charlie Chaplin decided to settle in Switzerland. In 1972, Charlie Chaplin was allowed entrance to the United States once more so that he could accept his Oscar for his contributions to film. It was on Christmas Day, 1977, in his home in Switzerland, that the world lost the most astounding and rare breed of comedians. A man who acted in, wrote, produced, composed, and directed every single one of his films. Charlie Chaplin died at the age of 88 due to natural causes, leaving behind 8 children with his 4th wife, Una O'Neill, and 1 son from his previous marriage to Lita Gray. Charlie Chaplin is one of the most famous names and faces in the world today. In fact, if one were to venture over to London, they would have to be prepared to be drowned in Charlie Chaplin lookalikes. These lookalikes are so dedicated to their craft that when Charlie Chaplin himself entered a contest, he only won 3rd place. This alone says a great deal about how beloved this man truly is. Charlie Chaplin is a man that any actor should look to for inspiration because he was a rare and great talent for the screen. Charlie Chaplin was a man who made us smile and he made us laugh, but at the same time, he taught us important lessons about the world. One of the most important lessons that Charlie Chaplin taught us can be summarized in one short quote. A day without laughter is a day wasted. I'd say that's surely bigger than elephant. Yeah.
That's good.